Hey, beautiful people, it's your girl, April Sampé, back with another episode of Veg Out Live, where we dive deep into your lifestyle. Today, we'll be speaking with a fellow podcaster and a leader in community outreach. I'm talking about Queenie Love. Listen, I'm going to introduce you, but before I do, let's hear from our sponsors. This ain't your grandmama's ugly. Listen. It's a lifestyle, a movement, and a brand. Get your ugly shirts at www.uglybyaprilsampé.com. Ugly, understand God loves you.
Time to turn it up. Time to turn it up. Time to turn it up. We are live right here on the Go With Radio Show right here on Go With Radio Live, WinDC Radio, all wrapped up with Go With Media.
What's good? This Crank Lucas, the rap producer, and you locked into WinDC Radio, the #1 platform for independent artists and entrepreneurs.
Live and direct from the shops at Iverson. It's just Paul representing. Shout out to my man Nico. You right here on WinDC.
Visit www.uglybyaprilsampé.com to get your ugly attire. And don't forget to download the WinDC app so that you can be up to date on all independent artists and entrepreneurs in your community. Now, come on, let's go meet Miss Queenie Love. I have the beautiful with the fresh new dew, Miss Queenie Love in the building. I am excited. Hello, my beautiful sister. How are you doing today?
Oh, hey, gorgeous. I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for being so kind. You're so beautiful.
Honey, I love it. I just love the new hair. So tell me, what is going on in your world?
You know, this has been such a crazy year, right? It's a year of change and evolution and stretching us and pushing us beyond our limits and fear and anxiety. I mean, we've had it all, right? So I've had all of that this year. Mm-hmm. And I am just kind of springing back into, my step. I lost my father. And so, you're catching me at a time where I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I can kind of talk and entertain people and chat with you and welcome conversations. I'm getting better. So that's what's been going on in my world. Just dealing with all of the crazy that's going on and welcoming all the calm that I can create for myself.
I am so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
But I am happy in the fact that you are celebrating his life.
Yes.
And also celebrating yourself. Most people don't take that time out to just really focus on who they are as a person. Mm-hmm. And, I embrace that. Yes.
Yeah. It's tough, but I'm made of resiliency. And so I didn't know it until it showed up. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, you can get through this. Many days I thought I could not. And it's still a journey. But every day I take it with stride, and I remember him and I celebrate him. And I had a beautiful life of memories with my father. And so I think those are the things that's keeping me going. And the fact that I'm still here. You know what I mean? So I got to do something with my time because time is not long.
For all of my viewers, I want you to talk to me a little bit about the Hope Project.
Oh God, that was my baby for years. So the Hope Project is, it's like a ministry, right? It's a community ministry. I started it in DC. I wanted to get those that were experiencing homelessness, that were coming to the soup kitchen where I was serving. I wanted to get them moving, and I wanted to give them hope, even if it was just a few minutes. And so I was an avid runner at the time. And so I looked around. I remember looking at the line of individuals that would come in for service, to get food and clothing. And I said, some of these cats look like they might could run. So let me get them moving in the morning. And so I pitched the ideal to the church that I was volunteering at. I pitched the ideal to some of the local bars, trying to get some partnerships. I pitched the ideal to Soul for Souls, trying to get shoes and things like that. And as I was pitching this ideal, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 years ago, people jumped on board and they were like, Queenie, if this is what you want to do, we believe in you, we're going to do it, And it was just all in my head until I started pitching it and people said yes, and they started contributing to it. And then the first thing I did was I got about a good 8 guys and 2 females to start running in the mornings, on the weekends, that were homeless. And what I learned in that was I gave these people an opportunity to belong to a group of athletes, you know. It didn't matter, you know, how fast or slow they ran. It didn't matter. None of that mattered. But the end goal was to just go with a group of people, be a runner and not just a homeless person. And the reward was the community getting a pair of shoes and actually completing a 5K. And that started the Hope Project as a whole. That mission went from helping those that were homeless just kind of take a few minutes away from standing in a soup kitchen line or standing in a closet saying, hey, I need a shirt. And it went from that, and it grew to an entire group of volunteers that I've managed and have been blessed to have. And we've just continued to feed those that were homeless. We volunteer at different shelters. We're not running as often. So instead, now we're just volunteering. We are offering all types of basic needs and support. And we do life skills at some of the organizations around here. So yeah, it was my baby. It was just an ideal of, let's go running. Let's just get away. Helping our people escape, if just for 5 minutes, was my thought. So that's what the acronym stood for. And here it is. I'm still extremely proud of it because I was able to get people to volunteer that were looking for something to do, but didn't know where to start. And the Hope Project is where many of them landed.
Now, I know that you're always giving back. When I say you're always giving back, you have a podcast, and it's called Bar Talks. Now, before, just a few minutes ago, you said that you went to the local churches, but you also went to the local bars.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, because, one thing that I think is great to hear is that people always look for ways to help in every area. Meaning, you're helping the homeless. You can also learn to help people in your local bars, and people in the local bars might want to actually help the homeless.
Absolutely.
So where did you come up with the name? Where did you come up with the concepts? I was privileged enough to be a part of it. So talk to me about it.
All right. So I am all over the place with my creativity, right? But I see opportunities in every space I sit in. And so, yes, volunteering started at a church in DC, but I left and just took into the community. Didn't matter, right? Because some churches were a little behind on truly volunteering and aiding those that were homeless and in need. So I needed to get with a group that was a little more progressive. So I wound up going into DC, got with a church there, not as a member, but just as a volunteer. And so that was kind of set up already. And then sidebar, I was getting into politics. That's a sidebar. And so I started wanting to figure out, I need to figure out a way that we could have conversations about not just political conversations, but about different issues that were affecting people of color. And I was running one morning and I was like, oh, maybe I could create a conversation forum, right? Just a community forum, because where I live, there weren't any real community forums unless they were in church. And since that wasn't kind of where I wanted to do this at, because just much what you just said is my reason why I didn't want to do that. And so do it in a bar kind of came up in my head. Now, I wasn't even a person that really sat at a bar inside of a club. So that was weird to even say that. And so I wound up going to one of the local bars, go to the local bar. I pull up there, I get me a glass of wine. I pull up at the bar and I sit. And people knew me because I'm known in the community. And so I just start listening to conversations at the bar. And I realized that this was like the perfect opportunity to talk about anything that you probably wouldn't be as comfortable talking about with your family or your job or the church without the noise in the background. So I started having this image in my head how this could work. And I think maybe like a couple of days later, I went to a group of guys that were videographers and I was like, hey, I think I want to do this, but I want you guys to do it. So I want to just produce it. I want to produce this show. Two of the guys that I talked to, they were like, no, Queenie, you need to be the face of this. You need to do it. They love you. They'll listen to you. And I'm like, okay. So that's how it started. Bar Talk started with the ideal of me wanting to pitch it to someone else for them to do it, and I stand behind the camera and kind of direct the show. We started off as a live show in the community, and we would set up at one of the local bars, and we would have very sometimes uncomfortable conversations, whether it was about rape and domestic violence, or if it was about injustices or wrongfully being convicted. And we had a gentleman that had been convicted for like 20 some years, and then he had, been released because obviously he was not guilty.
Queenie so elegantly stated, I have been exonerated from the crime and the charges of robbery, sexual assault, burglary, assault during the commission of a felony, all that.
And we had him to come and to tell his story.
I'm a free man to this day.
Politics, relationship issues, and we were packing the house out. And I realized this works. People want to talk. They want to get together. They want to learn. They want to grow. And sometimes they just want to be heard. And I was providing that. And now because of COVID, I no longer am providing it that way. And instead, we're doing this way. So now I interview people like yourself. And we have bar talks, and we talk about life. We talk about things, that really matter to the heart.
So far to date, what's the strangest story that you've heard?
Oh,
whether it was an interview or an actual bar.
Well, I think one of the story that probably pops out to me the most was a polyamorous relationship that actually worked for the couple, for the three of them. And I wasn't expecting it at all. So it's a gentleman that I knew from church, and he would write. I know I hate telling this, but he would he would go to church with his wife, and I knew his wife, and so I didn't think anything of it. And one evening we were just kind of at the bar talking, and then he said, well, the people at this particular church, if they only knew what I did, they would probably put me out. And for a moment I was like, oh Lord, what should I ask? But I'm very inquisitive, and I always have a way of kind of, making it comfortable for you to talk to me. So I was like, tell me more. Let's unpack that a little bit. And so I kind of threw a few things out. I started guessing a couple of things, and he just laughed. And then he said, no, he says, we're polyamorous. We have a third person. So he told me this at the bar. I thought he was, just kind of wanting to tell me this for shock value. And he invited me to come over, but I couldn't interview him on camera. And I said, sure, no problem. I'll just take notes, and I'll eventually tell this story. And sure enough, I was a little nervous because I didn't know what I was walking into, but I thought this was this church guy and wife, and I wasn't expecting that. So I walk into their beautiful home, and sure as he said, their mutual lover, she was there, and they have been together in this relationship at that time for about 8 years. This was a legit relationship. So
okay,
I wanted them on the show so bad.
I want them on the show. Like, are they vegan?
No, they're not. Well, no, they're not vegan. But even now I still think like, I kind of wonder like how, and I did ask the question. I was like, how do you deal with being Christian and having this lifestyle that is shunned upon? And their justification is because biblically speaking, it was okay to have a handmaiden, and what I'm saying? So I couldn't. There's nothing. First of all, this is no shade, no judgment. You know what I mean? But the shock of it was, this. Now I think he is a deacon right? Because he was truly on track, like for that type of leadership in church. And so I just wasn't expecting it at all. That's probably the one experience I had that I was just not expecting it from him. We talk about that all the time with people, right? We're human. But I think that learning that this lifestyle he had adopted for about 8 years at that time, and it was working for them, I was just like, wow, you learn something new every day.
There's so much judgment.
Yeah.
People are not free to actually speak or be themselves. Now everything is, we all have to be extremely politically correct. We all have to think the same. We all have to act the same. And, I think that Bar Talks, Veg Out Live, and so many other podcasts and so many other shows give people a platform to really just be who they want to be. And so I'm glad that you were able to tell his story, because even though he's not able to tell it himself, at least somebody is telling somebody, you're his mouthpiece. You know what I mean? Yeah. And a lot of people need that. Which leads me to your other lifestyle.
Oh Lord, it's so many.
There's so many. I just love it.
There's so many.
Vegan girl with curves, honey.
Yes.
Let me tell you why I love that title. I love that. I just love it, because everybody looks at us as being the number one. Like, we're straight up and down. Vegans are all supposed to look exactly the same. We're all supposed to walk up to trees and hug them. When we actually talked about this when you interviewed me. Listen, I'm all for hugging a tree, and there actually is a reason for hugging trees, ladies and gentlemen. You don't know, but we're not all tree hugging, grain eating people. You know what I mean? We eat great meals, and a lot of us do have curves.
Yeah.
I welcome that. Where did you come up with the title?
Okay, so Vegan Girl with Curves. Let me tell you. So I've been vegan since like 2015. I started thinking about going vegan in 2014. And I was like, well, I'll get around to it, right? Because I was vegetarian. And so, you know how a lot of times, there's some steps that we take to get to, where we totally take all animal products out of our lifestyle. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to share my meals and share with people how I grocery shop and all these things. But I didn't really want to mix it up with Bar Talks, because I would be consumed, because when you become vegan, it can consume you, right? And everyone wants to know more. So I said, well, maybe I'll just start doing YouTube videos or something like that. And so I realized when I would actually have a conversation, more people would say, oh, I always thought vegans were, and they would do this either Caucasian or thin. I would never change my ethnicity, my race, or my complexion, even if I could. And I am an athletic, curvy girl, even though, and I run marathons, I run, half marathons. I get up and work out every day, but I don't look like the typical vegan at that time. I didn't look like typical vegan at that time. And so I remember just kind of like spatting it off. Somebody just mentioned my veganism, and I was like, so what? I'm a vegan girl with curves. You know what I mean? Like, and what? You need to accept that and get over yourself and know that it's okay for me to show up looking this way, and I'm plant-based and I'm proud of it, right? I'm proud of the lifestyle. And I decided, you know what? That's who I am. So I start putting up videos, and I was hashtagging it Vegan Girl with Curves. And now I have not a YouTube, but I have a IG where I post food, and much like what you do, but girl, you really got it, because you be getting it. I just be like, oh, here's my dish today. But
not at all.
And then on Facebook, I definitely on Facebook, I tend to post my dishes that I prepare, but I also like to educate people and give you something to read, some learning material, some videos that you may, should watch, because a lot of people, I think we all oftentimes want to do better with our food choices. but we don't know how to sometimes. We're not sure because, going down the street, getting something from the, whatever store up the block, it's so much easier than coming home, preparing or trying to plan or looking at ingredients to make sure it's not animal based, And so I think I tried to make it easy. I try to make dishes that are easy. I try to put information out there that is easy. And I want to show up looking like myself and it be okay,
Yeah. Trust me, I do know. So what were the things that before you went vegan that you believed and now okay, that just was so not true?
Well, let's see. Well, I believe that I was going to probably lose like 50 pounds. That was not true. That's the first thing. That's the first myth. Like, that's not a fact, right? Genetically, we are who we are. So you have to kind of look at your genetics, your makeup. So that wasn't it. But I did feel far less bloated. I could feel the puffiness going away. So that was that was a good thing. And I think the other thing was finding it difficult to get my protein, right? So I had to learn what protein was and learn, other sources that, other ways I could get it. And I also had to learn exactly how important is it for me to actually have protein? Like, why is that such a big deal? And so once I kind of learned all of that, getting protein was not an issue. And really, it's really not a challenge. And it's not something that we need to be concerning ourselves with as we're talking about, we need, certain nutrients to live. I mean, I think we've been sold on this whole protein factor, which is just not, if you look at the science of it and do some research, you'll realize it's not a fact. It's not the way it's been presented to us. We just didn't know. We wasn't given any other options.
So when it comes to protein, when it comes to all the vitamins and nutrients that we're told that we have to have every day in every meal, I find myself in my head consumed with so many people that don't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
So many people that don't have access to good foods.
Yeah.
And, I'm saddened pretty often because a lot of people don't even realize that they don't have access to great foods. And what I mean by that are people who live in food deserts, people who live in places that don't have produce, people who live where their corner store is their local grocery store, right? And so my question to you is, how do you think that we can put an end to that?
Wow. You know what? That's a great question. I actually, I'm big on this issue, right? Food desert issue. And if we open our eyes, we can see it. When I hear others not realize the problem, I'm like, you just haven't opened your eyes. You haven't opened your eyes, or you haven't gone to the places that we're talking about, right? Because if you live in your little corner is the land of milk and honey, then you don't realize where someone that goes to the corner store, they have to get fried this, fried that, fried this, that's their food resource, right? And it's a real issue. So I think the key, to getting food into these food deserts is to, one, education. Like, you got to educate people that, one, are living in the community so that they know that there are other options. We just got to source them in. We got to get them in there, because even the people that's living in the community where there is depravity, some of them don't even realize that that's an issue. Like, this is how we've grown up. It's always been this way. Or they feel like the food is too expensive if you go to the other side of town to pick it up, right? So education is key, like really finding a way for people like yourself and myself and others to advocate in these communities with the people that's living there and talk to them about the importance of having healthy food and healthy food options and how this directly is linked to your health. Farmers markets, of course, and I love the fact that many communities now accept EBT. So for those that are low income and they've received food stamps, their EBT card, they can use it at the farmers market. The problem is some areas don't have transportation. So it depends on where we're talking. So we got to make sure that we load that food up on a truck and we take it out to these communities and we begin to offer these options, fresh food. I mean, seasonally fresh. And if we begin to educate, we can teach people that they can eat seasonally, creating those farmers markets, having the fresh food, the veggies, and teaching people, start talking about it, showing people, I think is key. And then, of course, there's the political side where we need to get our leaders involved in making these changes and writing in legislation so that we can close the gap on these food debtors, and we can no longer we cannot continue to allow liquor stores to jump up and quickie marks to jump up, but not have access to healthy food in these areas that are impoverished. We have to figure out a way to make legislation and make the leaders see how important it is, so we can start changing lives that way.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree, but let's be real. When we talk about a lot of the politicians, and I definitely don't get into politics, but I will say this. I know that in a lot of communities, when we're talking about politics, from community level on up, the majority are not very healthy themselves.
Right.
So when you say, listen, we have to get healthy,
Mm-hmm.
well, what is healthy? And so I love the fact that we talk about education, because I think the education doesn't just start with the community. It does also start with the politicians.
Right.
I think that what you're saying when it comes to the flea markets and things of that nature, talking to people in your own community, the farmers markets, my apologies.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about the farmers markets, education needs to be a part of those farmers markets.
Yeah.
Not just selling these products because
Mm-hmm.
people don't understand why this particular product would be good for them.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this particular fruit better for your skin than this one? Why is this particular one good for your joints? Why is this better when, every fruit and vegetable has a purpose. And if we eat our colors and we're cooking our foods the way that they need to be cooked versus frying everything.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Then I mean,
Although frying is good, it's not good for us.
Yeah. Louisiana. I mean, we know we will fry something faster than you can say Amazon.
Yes.
What is next?
Creators will always find a way to create. You know what I mean? So I'm continuing my podcasting, and we are turning the corner a little bit. It's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and so right now we're focusing on that, putting the information out and making sure that if people are in unhealthy relationships, that they know that there's a way out and there's life after abuse. And so I'm focusing a lot on that this month. And I think going forward, we're planning to start another platform. I actually will be co-hosting a show coming up soon. So I can't put all the information out there yet because I haven't had my meeting that's set up in the near future. But that's what it looks like it's going to be happening. And I'll continue this journey. This journey of something that is near and dear is that food desert, trying to figure out what we can do to change this, this issue that is running rampant in a lot of communities. And so I do want to continue to kind of be involved in that space. And so I'm thinking of innovative ways to infiltrate the churches and make sure that they are involved, because they're on every corner. So you might as well be doing something. So no shade. I don't want anyone to be upset, but I'm just being real. And that's it. The fall is here. So, I'm hiking and I'll have a hiking group that I'll get together soon. I'll be inviting those out to come out hiking and, just keep our bodies moving and, remain as healthy as possible. Of course, we're social distancing even on our hikes, but I just want us to live our best life. And that's my plan, whatever that looks like. Come on.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me here. And I'm glad that you have something coming up, because that means that you are going to join me again, right?
I will. Of course I will. I got to come back and share. Yes, of course.
Thank you so much, sweetheart. I will see you soon.
Absolutely. Can't wait. Bye, sweetie.
Hey, beautiful people. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Please follow Queenie Love on all social media platforms. Visit WinDC Radio.com for information on independent artists and entrepreneurs in our own community. Don't forget to download the Ugly album and visit www.uglybyaprilsampé.com to get your ugly attire. Always make time to veg out live only on Veg Out and Dine.
Can we talk for a moment?